Hello, and welcome to another episode of Myths and Stories, a Destiny 2 lore podcast. Today, we are continuing our Truth to Power coverage and the craziness that is within said book. Uh, this is, in my opinion, one of the funnest books to go through. It has these really cool, like, choose your own adventure in there. There's a story within a story within a story happening. We don't know who's actually writing this thing. Like, we know now it's Savathun, but at the time this thing came out, we had no idea what was going on here. There was so many cool theories circling this book when it first came out. But this is, of course, part of our overarching uh, covering of Savathun, kind of getting everyone ready for final shape and who the big players are coming to the table. Last time we ended, we got through the first choose your own adventure section, which was called Act, Choose, React. Super neat things happening in there. It even calls you out for reading the thing in linear order, which is hilarious to me. And then there was the final entry, which then had like some hidden entries, supposed hidden entries of the books of sorrow that were like, this is what was really happening in the background. But again, we don't know. We can't really know. Like, we got some pretty good theories, but it's when Savathun's involved. Yeah, shit gets weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, Myth, where we starting out today?
Yeah. So last time, kind of where we ended was still technically amongst the choose your own adventure stuff, but it was multiple entries that were all supposedly Duel and Karu giving us messages from Savathun that were all these in between verses of the Books of Sorrow. Um, and then at the end, she was like, haha, I made all that up.
that's
Which
that's even like, really? Why?
uh
Why you do this to
but
Hikaru?
I know, like, come on. But I do think that in truth, a lot of those entries were probably accurate around Savathun, not wanting to be beholden to the worms and trying different things to get away from them and like coming up with different ideas to around that. Like I think even though this is presented in the guise of a lie, it is probably pretty accurate. At least the bits involving what she was trying to do.
Well, and we talked about that idea too of like the way Savathun's hunger works. Like that, all of that just works into her favor.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything that causes someone to not understand her
Yeah.
is what she feeds off of. That is this Imbaru power that she feeds off of. So when we're picking up in this episode is still within that choose your own adventure section. On I believe the last of that section, which is titled React, Choose, Act. So we're gonna have some more numbers. We're gonna read this linearly again. But it's gonna be there's gonna be some go to this, and we're just gonna read through in order, and you can hop around if you want to see how the adventure would unfold if you followed those. But yeah. So without further ado, this is Truth to Power, React, Choose, Act, and it goes like this. You are standing in the courtyard of the tower. You are without armor or weapon, and your senses seem more vivid than usual. Under your tongue is the taste of salt. To look down into the last city, go to N. To move deeper into the tower, go to O. Section N. The city is gone. In its place is a lens, a warp, the telltale blister of a black hole singularity, sheathed in bent light. You get the eerie sense that it's looking back at you. Go to O. Section O. You find Banshee 44 Pt.4, Master Rahul, Tess Everest, Benedict 9940, Soraya Hawthorne, Executor Hideo, Amanda Holliday, Arak Jalal, and Cade 6 in their usual places. Cade seems subdued. You see unusual light coming from inside what was once the speaker's chamber. A throaty voice calls you into the hangar to play soccer. To speak to Cade, go to C. To investigate the speaker's chamber, go to P. To play soccer, go to E. Again, those earlier letters, C and E, in the previous Choose Your Own Adventure list that we talked about an episode ago. But we're going to continue on section P. A Vex Hydra hovers in the place once occupied by the speaker's machine. As you approach, a jet of brine spurts from its chassis, and a Greek woman with snakes for hair tumbles onto the floor. She groans and clutches her head. Her hair writhes in distress. You attack the Vex. Go to S. To go to Medusa's aid, go to Q. Section Q. We've got to get you out of here, Medusa whispers. Dulankaru and everything she told you was an illusion. Quoria compromised my systems, and now it's trying to recruit you for its own purposes. Get me to the edge of the simulation, and I'll break us out. To carry Medusa to the edge of the tower, go to T. To demand an explanation from the Hydra, go to R. Section R. The Hydra speaks to you in your own voice. I have simulated Dulankaru as well as I can. While Vex cannot normally account for the paracausal influence of light and dark, I am no longer simply a Vex. And where no elegant and analytical solution exists, we may apply massive computational power to generate a reasonable facsimile. This was the approach used against Sate-14. After observing Dulankaru during many loops, this simulation reveals her purpose in the dreaming city. She seeks the key to the distributary, the world the dreaming city dreams of, where the awoken were born and time passes at an accelerated rate. Once she conquers that world, she will use it as a base to gather millions or thousands or millions of years of tribute in a very small span of our time. A being empowered by so much ontological authority would be capable of altering reality at a whim. You must prevent this. I will continue to loop the dreaming city until you find a way to defeat her permanently. To leave, go to Q. To demand information on the role of black holes, go to U. Section S. You battle the Vex Hydra. As you gain the upper hand, it emits a blast of static, and you feel a horrific sense of deja vu. Go to N. Section T. Medusa weighs nothing. The serpents of her hair squirm against your neck. We have to jump, she whispers. Forget everything you've seen here. It's all meant to confuse and distract you. I'll send you another message in 3 weeks. To jump, go to Z. Section U. Black holes are the densest possible computers in the physical universe. They are also the most secure, since they can be made to retain their information until they evaporate in the deep cosmic future. The Hive operates small singularity computers, such as the world's grave, and the Vex sometimes pack enough energy and information into a small area of space-time to collapse it into a Kugelblitz black hole, like the one you see outside. But a true stellar mass or galactic black hole computer is inconceivably more powerful. If Savathun plans to predicate her existence on the concealment of her secrets, as Oryx predicated his upon the sword logic, it would be logical for her to safeguard her deepest secrets and her throne world in a supermassive black hole computer. To defeat her would require a journey below the event horizon and the exposure of her most jealously guarded truths. Go to R. Section Z. You leap from the tower and escape Quaria's simulation. And that is also the end of this chapter.
So again, we have that choose your own adventure style thing, and it's I absolutely love it. I love that it is, like, you can tell it's definitely a continuation of the of the previous, I guess, what, 4 books,
Yeah.
because it does have the to speak with Cade, go to C, to play soccer, go to E, which is obviously in those previous ones, which is funny because, like, I don't know there's a way to go to section N from the first book. Like, so you would have to read these in linear order in order to get back here, and then, like, you just arbitrarily decide to, like, start playing along with with it and go to E to go start playing soccer and collecting points. Um,
um, so fun enough, I don't know if N exists.
it does. Yeah, that's the first section in this one.
Oh, it starts at N. I gotcha.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yep,
I was looking at the other one ended with M, and I thought it was back on that one.
yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Nope,
You're right.
nope. It starts this one, but there are some letters omitted, and we're gonna talk about those here in a sec. Um, then of course it goes through kind of the same deal. Like, you go to the speaker's chamber. There's the Hydra again. It spits out Medusa. We're like, okay, well, let's have a talk with Medusa. Medusa's like, hey, like, you can either attack her or talk to Medusa. Obviously, if you attack her, the whole thing starts over again. Talk to Medusa. She says, hey, she kind of, like, she almost, like, confirms what Dueling said. She says Dueling and everything she told you was an illusion. Quoria compromised my systems, my being Medusa, this made up AI,
Mhm.
and is now trying to recruit you for its own purposes. We need to get the hell out of here. Which again, it the fact that this Medusa AI is a it's made up by Quoria in a virtual machine, but it knows it's a virtual being in a virtual machine, and now it's trying to escape. Like, how did that thing get enough sentience of its own? But AI sentience is weird. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, so here's the thing. When Medusa first introduces themselves to us, they introduce themselves as a mind.
Right.
I forget exactly what they say, but it was like I was going to see if I could find it. But regardless, they introduce themselves as a mind. I think along the lines of war mind is
Right.
what they're going for, something a little lesser than that. But we know that the Ishtar Collective and Maya Sundaresh and all of them, they used a war mind to tell them whether they were simulations or not, because a war mind could not be simulated, or at least by their predictions, a war mind could not be
Oh,
simulated.
that's right.
So I wonder if the Vex got too close, if Quoria got too close to an actual war mind, and that's why it gained sentience,
I
because
like it.
it couldn't be bound by its simulation anymore.
I like it. Dude, that's okay. Oh man, I like it. I really like it. I really like it. It's funny because, like, when Medusa first introduced herself as a mind, I always think, okay, a Vex mind, like a
Right,
Hydra
yeah.
or something. But then, like, Medusa even clears it up and says, no, like your war mind, like an AI and stuff. But you're right. I totally forgot that was the whole reason that the collective brought in the war mind, because that was the only thing that could tell them if they were the real out of the 227 copies or not. Like, but if you're right, because if Quoria, it did simulate Medusa, I don't know. Quoria did well. Okay, there's more to Quoria than meets the eye, and I think that's coming up here
This is
too.
true, yes.
So then, of course, anyway, Medusa says, "Let's get the hell out of here. Like, let's break out of this, and then we'll basically will solve it from there. Um, when she says that, you can either take her to the edge of the tower and jump, and when you do, she says, "Okay, we have to jump. For everything you've seen here, it's all meant to confuse you. Like, forget it all. This is all just meant to mess with your head. I'll send you another message in 3 weeks." Which,
Yeah.
again, if we follow that kind of train of thought, that logic there of like, if this is a war mind that did gain sentience, it might actually start trying to contact us if it can get out of this simulation correctly. Like there's again lots of ifs there. Like what happens to an AI within a simulation, a simulated AI within a simulation, if it can escape said simulation and gain full, if it has already gained sentience in the simulation, does it keep said sentience outside the simulation? These
Right.
these are all huge, like theoretical. Like I have no freaking clue.
Yeah.
So yeah. Um, Anyway, so that's kind of one thing, and of course, if you jump, you're out of the simulation. Otherwise, you can talk to the Hydra and be like, "Hey, what the hell?" And this is an interesting one here. So the Hydra speaks to you in your own voice, and the only time we've ever
Mm-hmm.
seen that is with paracausality, and it straight up says, "I've simulated Dual Karu as well as I can." While Vex cannot normally account for the paracausal influence of light and darkness, I am no longer simply a Vex. And we know this because we the player, not we the guardian, but we the player know that Quoria is a Taken. Oryx took her, and so now there is paracausality inherently in Quoria.
Yep.
So this one entry here, the section R, the fact that it knows that it's no longer a Vex, that it knows it has more to it than what it was before, maybe this thing could simulate a war mind now. Maybe that's a possibility
Maybe.
for a paracausal Vex that is no longer simply a Vex. It's
Right.
just
That their capabilities are
unknown.
far more
It
than what a normal Vex would be, and yeah, truly
uncomputable.
unknown. Yeah.
We know that Vex as an entity of itself can do everything, simulate everything except paracausality. But with paracausality, I mean, paracausality is essentially space magic. Like that's all there is to it. Like it's I I don't know, Myth. Do you think it's the same as wish magic?
I don't I don't know, but
That's
I feel like one does not directly correlate to the other.
sure,
Um
but they're both like outside of the realm of physics of our
yeah,
universe. That's
they're both outside the rules, the normal
right.
rules.
And so and that's again that's another hard thing to kind of like express, because the human mind, as soon as you start thinking of stuff, you start thinking of things in terms of rules of like, oh, okay, well, gravity is a rule. Like I may not think about gravity 24/7, but even in your dreams, like their gravity still exists and stuff like that because your mind has to work in this realm of reality. And so to even think of a realm where like rules don't exist, the easiest thing to think of is like, well, gravity doesn't exist, and then your mind can kind of spiral from there. But yeah, like we don't truly know what powers Quoria has outside of just being a Vex that can simulate, but now being a Vex that can simulate with paracausality. Like that's a dangerous thing, honestly. Because and we've talked about this too before, especially in our Vex series. If a Vex could simulate paracausality, then that's the end of the universe. The Vex win. Like that's
Yeah.
game over for everyone. So of course it goes on, and it they even say right there, this was the approach used to, like, we can get close to getting a reasonable facsimile, and that's how they defeated Saint 14. And of course we know this. We covered this in our Saint 14 series. That's they
Mm-hmm.
literally suppressed his specific, like, a single guardian's light. They didn't suppress light as a whole. They suppressed a single guardian's light. So each light being used by any given guardian has a unique um, signature to it, which is super freaking cool. Um, then of course they go on, after observing Jewel and Karu for many loops. Uh, this simulation reveals her purpose in the Dreaming City. She seeks the key to the tributary. This is something Myth and I kind of theorized about. But Myth and I theorized more further up the chain than Duel and Karu. Like
Yeah.
we're pretty sure Savathun is looking for this, And so, of course, her daughter, Julian Caro, to discover it. Cool. Hey, Mom, here's the keys. Thanks, kiddo. Keep doing your best. And then, go to kick in the door and escape this reality into another one. Um, and again, the reasoning here for it, the idea of the time passage and the tribute gaining, because again, if Savathun's trying to find a way to like bide her time, what better way than to like generate as much tribute she can at an accelerated rate in a black hole? Which, I mean, again, the brilliance of Savathun cannot be understated ever. She is probably one of the most brilliant entities in the Destiny universe outside of Ahamkara's, but
Yeah.
and they're both really shitty. but yeah, so like again, then it goes on. You have to stop this from happening. I'm just going to keep looping the Dreaming City until you find a way out, and that is directly coming from the Hydra. So again, I don't really know how much truth there is to the idea of Korea creating the loop or keeping the loop going, but within this Choose Your Own Adventure, it seems that Korea knows she's looping it and that Korea is going to continue to loop it. We obviously now know that the loop cannot, again, according to Riven, cannot be undone. The loop is
Yes.
permanent, and that's just the way life exists there in the Dreaming City from now on, which is just like, well, that blows. Like, that sucks. So yeah, so it's again kind of helping feed almost trying to like feed the reader, feed the guardian to say like, oh
Yeah.
well, if you keep chasing this, I'm going to keep looping this, and but again, feeding that illusion, that misunderstanding of Savathun here. And then of course we
Yeah.
have all the other entries of you beat the Hydra, whatever you to learn black holes, do this and stuff. And the black hole one is again just kind of like it's very much straightforward of like, this is what a black hole is. This is kind of how they exist. If Savathun can do this, then she could safeguard all of her secrets here. Like this is it just works in her favor.
Yeah. I do want to touch on the black hole stuff real quick.
Sure, go for it.
Less so from a lore perspective, although to a little bit, and more so as a like, this is just really cool.
Yeah.
So from a lore perspective, you know, Quoria in this case is the Vex Hydra that we're supposedly talking to, based on the entries from the first Choose Your Own Adventure. Is explaining black holes are the densest possible computer in the physical universe. They're also the most secure. Therefore, if Savathun is going to predicate her existence on concealing her secrets in a black hole, is the best place because the information is going to be secure but still computable.
Sure.
We know that Savathun, from the entries of her speaking with Nokris, as well as entries that line up with that from last episode about her putting a thrall in a black hole, after kind of explaining her entire master plan to it, and it not really understanding what she's talking about, but
And then she's like,
it's
good.
still right. It still technically has her secrets in its head, even if it doesn't know what they mean.
Sure.
And then by putting that in the black hole, that is kind of this idea of like putting your secrets in the most secure spot possible. So when I read through this originally, I had a hard time wrapping my head around like, how's a black hole a computer? What are you talking about?
I'm kind of right there with you. Like
Yeah.
I was following the secret idea that they were predicating, but then like the idea of the computer, I was like, this is what?
So I did some digging.
Oh shit!
Are
we about to learn quantum mechanics?
Not exactly, but this is a little bit of a break from our normal like Destiny lore because I just thought this was really cool. This is an
I love math and
article
science
from Scientific American that is written about black hole computers. To get down to the summarized version as best I can. Theoretical physicists treat the universe electrons, photons, other elementary particles, they're all bits of data about the universe.
Okay.
They're all a bit of data about a building block of the universe. You can almost transcribe them to binary, to ones and zeros.
Okay.
Uh,
I can follow this.
a black hole literally inputs any and all information around it into itself. By Einstein's theory of general relativity, once the information is in the black hole, it's impossible to ever get out. Like, however, Stephen Hawking showed via quantum mechanics that black holes do have an output. They release energy, they glow.
Because otherwise, how would you be
And
able to observe them?
well, I think they observe them technically by the things around them.
Oh,
But
sure.
on the quantum scale, they're releasing energy, and that energy is about equivalent to whatever it is that they have sucked in. So
Because
the
energy
example
can't be
being
created or destroyed; it can only be transferred.
only be transferred. The example here they give is like if an elephant's worth of energy were sucked into the black hole, an elephant's worth of energy would come out. Uh, but originally it was thought that this would be a hodgepodge and there would be no way to like reassemble that information from the energy that's output
Sure.
until 2004 when Gerard T. Hooft of the University of Utrecht in the Netherlands, I'm sure I murdered that,
Yeah, you did.
uh, he showed that black holes do in fact compute the information that they input, and the energy output from them is not random and can be deciphered.
Holy shit.
So all of that is to say, a computer at the end of the day, in a very simplest terms, is a device that takes in information, can compute it while it has it, and then outputs that information either in the same form or a different form, but it's still a result of the information it input.
Sure. So I guess
These,
by that definition, a black hole is a
yeah,
computer because it is just computing the there's an input, there's a computation happening, there's an output.
yep, and the output is decipherable. It has the potential to be useful.
Because just like any other computer, garbage in is garbage out. But if you have a known that you can put in, and you can decipher and read the output. Yeah. Okay. No, I'm following.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not necessarily relevant to like Destiny stuff, but I just thought it was cool. Like, yeah,
No,
black
that's
holes are computers at a very, basic definition of computer.
well, and to kind of bring it back to Destiny again, they talk about how the information uh, of like even how atoms were arranged. I want to say it was our last episode or the one before it. The 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 way the only difference between it's in the same choose of your own adventure. Yeah, they talk about how the way that like what is light, like what is information about
Mm-hmm.
how light is used. Well, the information itself, like light is or light or guardians or whatever is just the arrangement of atoms, and the secret is the information of how those atoms are arranged. So even information itself is the secret, and to have that used on to have the arrangement of the atoms be the secret itself kept inside of a black hole, and then like again going to Einstein's idea of well it can't be re-extracted, but then moving forward to say no it can be it not only can it be extracted, it can also be deciphered and kind of put back together, albeit extremely hard apparently. um
Yes.
kind
All
of
very theoretical.
Right. This is all again. None of this is like on a math level. Sure, this makes sense. On a like this is the difference between theoretical physics and practical physics. Of like theoretical physics, well, yeah, no, this is exactly what happened. Then practical physics comes in the door and goes, "Hold my beer, I got this," and shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, no, I I like the idea of the black hole in the simplest terms being a computer of input, computation, decipherable output. I started to say just output, but decipherable output. I think I like that phrase a little bit
Yeah.
better. And then, of course, I like the idea of the secret of like it's not just like information as a whole, no matter what the information pertains to. The arrangement of atoms. I told Billy that Jill is in love with Scott, and don't tell anyone. Like whatever secret needs to be is put into this, and then therefore cannot is very hard. I can't say cannot be extracted because again, theoretically it can be, but is very hard to be extracted, which then
Yeah.
works in Savathun's favor.
Oh yes. Uh, so yeah, just some fun little theoretical physics facts. We do know that her throne world, or at least as far as we're aware, her throne world is not in a black hole, or at least is not by the time we interface with it in Witch Queen.
Right.
Uh,
So then,
yeah, I mean,
what is this black hole like? What black hole is this specific entry
right.
referring to? If it's not referring directly to her throne world, which I think you're right, I don't think it is. Um, is it just did she just like go run around the universe like plucking out black holes, going up? Let's drop a throw on that one. Let's drop a throw on this one. Let's drop a Hydra in that one. Let's drop Quoria. You want to go? Okay, cool. You're in a black hole now.
I mean, that would be one way to sate her worm's hunger for a while she figures out other contingencies, I suppose.
I mean, if you're doing testing, like you're going to need more than one test subject, right?
Yeah, and thrall her a dime a dozen. So.
you're not you're not wrong.
So just go to the opening of
Oh shoot! The
why
dungeon.
am I spacing?
I
Yes,
know.
the
Grasp
dungeon.
of avarice.
Grasp.
They are
Yep.
literally a diamond. They are flooding out of this cave in the millions.
Just hop down and be like, this one, this one, this one, this one. Bye.
Boop, 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 boop. I like it. I like it.
Oh. But yeah. So alrighty. So that takes us on to the next chapter of Truth to Power, which is 3 weeks later that we would get this chapter in game. And this chapter is titled Asudem, but it's Medusa spelled backwards.
I love it. They even capitalized the M.
Yep. So clearly still referencing Medusa here, but like something's not quite right. Something's a little off. In the beginning of the entry, like the headers, the message headers, again, it has now that AI-com MDSA far-flung C3I covert reawakened and physical. So this is an interesting subject line. But this one goes like this. Section 0. You must be terribly confused. I'm sorry I couldn't be more help. After I crashed, I rebooted on a safe physical backup in the Dreaming City. It took me too long to penetrate Quaria's simulation and get you free, and for that I ask your forgiveness. Section 1. I understand what's happening here. Oryx took the Ahamkara Riven, who then fell into Savathun's claws. She devised a scheme to use Riven as bait, by inviting guardians into the Dreaming City, and then focusing the will of a group of powerful guardians upon Riven. She tricked you into making a wish, a desire to alter objective reality to conform with our subjective need to save the city. Riven fed on that wish in order to breach the Dreaming City's defenses and invite Dulin Karu inside. Dulin Karu and her Taken are simply scouring the city for awoken secrets. You don't need to fret about any greater agenda. Remember that you face an agent of Savathun. It's to her advantage to make you see schemes and conspiracies everywhere you look. Section 2. The 3-week loop must be a failsafe measure to keep Dulin Karu safe as she pursues her mission. In a sense, this entire city has been rendered deterministic. Only paracausal guardians have any free will here. The awoken here have been touched by greater powers, so they are aware of the preordination, but they cannot alter it. I'm certain that Quoria is behind this loop. As a taken Vex, it is capable of pathologic subversions of reality. I'll continue working on a countermeasure. Section 3. I've been correlating information on the Ahamkara and the hive worm parasites. Both display a peculiar ability to convert the host's intent into ontomorphic reality-altering effects. Both use similar language in their appeal to the host. I don't think they're the same species, however. The hive worms spawn large numbers of young from relatively few adults, always displaying the same physical form and live in communal groups. The Ahamkara are solitary, elusive, and seem to alter form to suit or confuse expectations. The shared syntax "O blank mine" may be the key. It seems to be a shibboleth used to invoke an ontomorphic effect, placing the target in a cage of O, activational, specific, appealing, and naming, and mine, defining ownership and subordination. Ahamkara and Worm may have evolved separately to exploit this effect, just as many species independently evolve eyes. This might place them in competition for the same ecological niche. I would expect a rivalry or antipathy between them. Do not be led astray by Quoria's misinformation. You must continue to hold the dreaming city as long as you can. The things I said to you about the black holes and the purpose of guardians were forced on me by Quoria. I'll be here when you need me next. I promise. Transmission ends, and so does the chapter.
So, an interesting thing has happened across this entire book. It started off as a storytelling thing that then, it was all about Eris and we didn't know who the author was at the time, and then it evolved into Medusa saying, "Oh, shoot, I'm sorry, I screwed up." And then it slowly evolved into Quoria, and then Quoria's making all this stuff up, and then Medusa comes back and goes, "Oh shoot, I'm real. I need to get out of here," and then crashes. Like the then it starts that weird choose your own adventure section of like it's almost like it's almost like Quoria, like Medusa happened and then Quoria was like Medusa happened, Medusa crashes, and then Quoria's like shit. Um, how do I keep the reader involved? And then creates that choose your own adventure. Um, but even during that choose your own adventure, Medusa is still gaining consciousness essentially. Um, but we still have no way to, I guess, prove that Medusa is even real at the time. Um,
Yeah.
and then we get this entry, right? Like this entry is, and again, we're going off this 3 week cycle. Every 3 weeks, the curse gets worse and worse and worse until it finally kind of like breaks upon itself, and there's just taken crap everywhere. Like there's blights everywhere. There's the whole city is just kind of crap. Um, the portal opens back up to let us into the Shattered Throne. We go inside. We do all sorts of stuff in the Throne World there. Defeat Duel Karu. Hop back out. Everything's hunky dory. Then it resets. But here, uh, Medusa is seemingly, and again, the very first thing, reawakened and physical. Medusa, do we ever find anything for Medusa in the physical realm of the Dreaming City?
No.
There's
And that
nothing.
that is a big so I don't necessarily think Medusa is approaching and again the way even this the titles are formatted, and we'll see with the next entry as well. It's almost like a Doppler effect where the middle entries we got deeper, and now we're regressing. We're kind of
Sure.
climbing back up the layers almost.
Yeah.
Um, because we know for a fact Medusa does not exist in our physical universe.
Interesting. Well, and
Like
she
we
she
discussed that
couldn't.
back in the first episode.
She couldn't, right? Because there's
No.
only one war mind, and all the now again, this is some Bungie fuckery with a story of being like, oh shit, backtrack. Uh, but we know that there's only one true war mind, and all the other, any other sub mind is exactly that. It is just a sub mind. The Malahayati, the Charlemagne, all of that is all just sub minds of the warbind. So if there were to be another war mind, like I don't know that it could exist. Like what facility? We know how big the Rasputin facility was. It's the entire northern half of Mars, which I guess the only way you can access that now is through the strike,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the battleground one. But anyway, that facility is huge. There's no way that a second Warmind was created and downloaded in just a somewhere in the Dreaming City. Like that would have to be like it says I rebooted on a safe physical backup. Like okay, cool, but that's got to be huge.
Well, and even independent of like the physical necessities of a being like this, when she introduced herself to us, when Medusa introduced themselves to us, it was, I am an AI mind that was aboard the ship that got taken into the distributary. I saw the Awoken become the Awoken and hijack, stowed away on the ship that came to this universe and help and like then also hid in the Dreaming City somewhere. Like, no, you didn't.
Maybe
Mara
an engram
created.
form, but there's no
Yeah,
fucking
like,
way.
well, it's the thing. There's no way Medusa would exist without Mara's knowledge. Mara
Exactly.
created the Dreaming City with Riven. Mara literally created the entire distributary and all of its rules of existence.
Just from her mind.
Like,
Just
yeah.
from her own mind. Like she was just thought all this stuff together and was like, cool, now it exists.
So there is no way that I see Medusa being a real thing because Mara would know she's a thing. And
Exactly.
I imagine it would have come up at some point.
You would think. Like if Mara was just hiding a Warmind AI just kind of in her back pocket and then just like out of nowhere
Yeah.
was just like, hey, poof. Yay. Like, yeah,
There you
I'm
go.
with you. Yeah, there's no way.
So this very opening line to me, this, you must be terribly confused. I'm so sorry. I crashed, rebooted. I'm on a safe physical backup in the Dreaming City. That is an impossibility. And what this first line tells me is not that Medusa is broken from the simulation. It's that Quoria has reestablished control of Medusa again.
Oh, I like that even better.
And that kind of feeds in with this, like, it's Medusa backwards, like we're going back up the chain. Like we got close to what was
We
actually going on,
actually broke. Oh,
and now we're like
man.
going back up the layers of like, oh no, this is everything's fine. Don't pay attention to anything you saw in there. Everything's fine.
Pay no attention to the six-snaked woman behind the mirror. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I got you. Man, I didn't even put the two and two together. Like it's the title of the card is spelled backwards, and we're like walking back up the chain, like we're like backtracking. Dude, that's brilliant. Okay, there's a layer there that I didn't even notice. That's super cool. I'm kind of stuck on that for a little bit. Okay, but all that aside, there are now a lot of truths in this. I think every single section here is now a truth. Straight up says, I understand what's happening here. Oryx took the Omkar Riven. This is a fact. Who then fell into Savathun's claws. This is fact. She devised a scheme to use Riven as bait. This is fact. Like all of this is fact. Like everything here is just shot for shot fact. The 3-week loop must be a fail safe to keep Duel Caro safe. I don't know if it's to keep her safe. I think it's literally just there to just kind of keep it going. Like otherwise Duel Caro does find the key. Like it's a
Yeah.
way to. I think it's a two-part thing. I think one, it's a way to keep Dulankaru searching because I'm assuming that Dulankaru knows that she's in a 3 week, and only because it even talks about how only paracausal guardians have free will here. So I'm assuming Dulankaru, having access to hive magic, has some type of access to paracausality and might understand why she's here. But even this, they even clarify that with the Awoken here have been touched by greater powers, so they're aware of it, but they can't do anything about it. And we see that with some of the more recent entries where like the Corsair that you save in the first week's mission, like uh, uh, Petra comes to her and she's just like, just freaking kill me. Like I'm sick of
Yeah.
reliving the same 3 weeks over and over again. So I'm assuming Dulan is kind of in the same situation. Like she got here, she made it here, she got here, cool, awesome. Now she's just stuck here. Like she can't do anything about it. She can keep looking, but then everything's going to reset, and every I'm assuming all of her knowledge of everything that she's gained will have reset. So now she has to keep looking. So again,
Mhm.
I think that is not necessarily a fail safe to keep Dulankaru safe. I think it is more of a um, helping not destroy the dreaming city and not find the key to the distributary. But like what I think myth we talked about this too, like the distributary may not exist anymore.
Right. And I think actually Savathun might tip her hand a little bit as to either the true function or another function of the Dreaming City cycle in this entry.
Oh,
So, specifically, that in a sense, this entire city has been rendered deterministic, meaning you know exactly what's going to happen.
yep,
Only paracausal guardians have any free will here, meaning only paracausal guardians can do something different every time this loop happens. If we go back to the action choose react, I that section I, guardians make their own fate. But what if the process by which they decide upon their fate could be understood and manipulated? If you knew, when we talked about this before, if you knew, okay, the guardian can choose whatever they want, but if I put them in a scenario where I know they're going to choose this, then I can manipulate them to make the choice I want.
right,
You know, if I know they're always going to save the hostage, kill the dragon, enter X scenario here, like if I know they're always going to do this outcome, then it doesn't matter if they have free will, quote unquote. I can put them in a position where they're going to make that choice.
make give it the whole idea of like a false choice.
Right.
Like the choice does exist, but we both know what choice you are going to make, even though you have the free will to make the other choice by nature of tendencies and past experiences. I have a high probability that you are going to make X choice. Therefore, I can manipulate the path that you follow. That's yeah, no, yeah,
Yeah. Now, when scientists set up experiments and they want to test something, they set up an experiment where all of the variables are exactly the same every time, except for whatever variable they want to study.
right,
I see the Dreaming City as a giant microscope of I have a controlled environment where everything happens exactly the same every time. And the thing I want to study, the Guardians and the choices they make most often, are the only things that have the ability to act differently in that space. If I watch them for
oh,
literal in eternity, for however long the Dreaming City will go through its loops and Guardians will continue to engage with it, if I watch them and I know that they always save the Corsair every time, I now have a piece of information that I can use to manipulate them in the future.
absolutely. And maybe that's how. So that's where you're saying that Savathun has tapped her hand or tipped her hat a little bit. Like she's 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 kind of like saying, I can determine this now, and therefore I can use that to my advantage later in the future.
Yeah, the Dreaming City is a giant experiment to see what motivates Guardians to do certain actions so that she can use those to her own, machinations later on.
Maybe that's why it took so long for her to reveal herself.
Maybe.
Interesting.
Just sitting there every week taking notes. I'm like, all right, Guardian A just rode their sparrow around over and over. Guardian B had a dance party.
That's the worst part. Is you know that's what it is. The Guardian C rode in on a 3-man party, and they actually saved the Corsair. Guardian D shot Petra in the face 47 times. Guardian L, like, but yeah, no, that's fucked up. But that's so true. That's the worst part. Like, I can't even be mad about that because it's true.
Guardian E died 10 times flinging themselves off the side trying to get to the cat along the side of the mountain.
Yes. You're not wrong. Like, that's the best part. Oh man.
We're just the mice in her lab.
That's it. That's all it is. And then of course we have the entire section here, which I'm not going to go super into detail about it, but it's all about the Ahamkara, and we go through that in depth in our Ahamkara series about the whole syntax, oh blank mine, even the idea that they're related to worms. The magic seems to work the same. It's just blatantly telling us truths here. Like this is just almost like a here's your truth on a silver platter. But since I've told you before that I was lying, like, believe it or not, I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Truth told from the lips of a liar is hard to believe.
Very, very true.
I find it interesting that the last line though of this, and we've talked about this before, that like Ahamkara and worms seem to feed off a very similar energy. This energy between like what is wanted and what is current in the
Yep.
universe. Worms just like feed continuously, and Ahamkara feed supposedly once per wish, but they set it up in such a way that you're going to come back for more, kind of thing.
More parasitic than the. Well, I guess
Yeah,
they're both very parasitic. Like the
yeah,
worm is like
yeah,
an active. I mean, they even say so here. They're both parasites. But like one is very um very direct, very like, I'm just gonna keep feeding and you have to deal with it. Whereas the
hmm
Ahamkara like feeds and then like does something to kind of entice the user to keep feeding.
yeah. And I wonder, because of this last line, this might place them in competition for the same ecological niche. I would expect a rivalry or antipathy between them. I wonder if Savathun originally sought out Riven, probably learned about Riven's existence via Oryx in some manner. Um, I wonder if she sought Riven out specifically to see if the Ahamkara and the hive worms were innate enemies, and maybe Riven would like want to destroy Savathun's worm just by nature of them being enemies.
Oh, sure, like see it as like a direct competition, be like, kill it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, clearly, that doesn't seem to be what happened, but I wonder if that was the theory that led her there in the first place.
You think pre-taken Riven or current Riven? Like current
Post taken,
post
post
taken.
taken
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Current in quotation marks, like
yeah, yeah.
3-week loop Riven. But yeah, and then of course the final entry there, don't be led astray by Corey's misinformation. You need it. It. You're right. It does kind of like loop back in on itself. You need to keep doing everything in the Dreamy City as long as you can. So even it itself is like it's enticing more guardians, because remember way back in one of the early entries, bring every guardian you have, send everyone you
Yep.
have here. And then I love that it follows it up with the things I said to you about black holes and the purpose of guardians. It was all propaganda by Quoria. Like
Yeah.
that's not my own thoughts. It's like, wait a second, hold
Wait
on
a minute.
here.
Yeah, and again, this like bring all the guardians. She needs as much information as possible. She needs as many test subjects to study as possible. So that could also be leading into that idea. Alrighty, so that then brings us to the final chapter of Truth to Power, and we will see again kind of a return to a previous layer of this book. So this chapter is titled "It's Just Me," and it goes like this. I have had 3 weeks to consider the way I have treated you. I feel I must make a full confession. When I left the tower in search of Savathun's agents, I had accepted my fate as a knight on Marasov's cosmic chessboard, doomed to seek the final end of the hive among cold stars. I said farewell only to those who couldn't hear me, because I was afraid that just one voice asking me to stay might break my resolve. It was pitiful weakness that made me write to you. It was wretched desire to be remembered as a person, not a ghoul, that made me tell you about the child, Erysia, St. Petersburg, and the cold waters of the Neva. Those things were all true. The rest, I am so ashamed. Mid-sentence, mid-thought, the fear seized me that I was being a stupid child, that I was wasting your time with idiot sentiment, that you would feel contempt for me at this outpouring of emotion, or worse, feel nothing at all. I hid in the dark for years, guardian. It is not loneliness or death that frightens me. It is the opposite. So I invented Medusa as a way to pretend I had never spoken to you. And when I thought the Medusa lie was slipping, I invented all of the rest as a way to tell you that I had learned without admitting it was really me. How can I prove to you that I am really Eris Morn? Not Medusa, not Riven, not Quoria, not Dolankaru, not the Witch Queen herself. I do not know. Will you believe me? Will you scour these pages for proof or disproof? Will you upload these files to your networks and share them? Call in warlocks and cryptarchs to catalog and dissect everything I've said? Will this manuscript become the foundation of another teetering edifice of theory and anticipation? What a fool I have made of myself. All because I faltered in my conviction, tried to reach back to someone I know is lost to me, and panicked at the thought of touch. But so it is, and nothing I do can now make it otherwise. I am a woman full of secrets, a woman who has lost everything she has ever called a friend. And when the need to share those secrets collided with the fear of friendship, I stumbled idiotically into needless lies. Do you know what the hives say when they want to express the inevitability of a thing? When they want to say, it is this way, because it could be no other way? Ayat. And that is the end of this lore book.
Yeah, this is all propaganda. This. I'm just gonna say it right now. Like this is just straight Savathun. Like again, she's doing this thing where like she feeds enough truth into it to where it helps out the idea that she came up with, the whole idea of it's not lies that she feeds off, it's the misinformation and failure to understand Savathun.
Yes. Yeah.
So and it's funny because I'm starting to really understand that concept more and more. I used to really think it was all just lies and deception, like that was it, like that's all that mattered. But it really is a failure to understand Savathun, because everything she does, she could be telling you the truth, 100, like shot for shot, word for word, 100% truth, but still be able to feed off of it because you do not understand the truth that she is telling you. And
Right.
therefore, that misunderstanding, that failure to understand, is feeding the worm. And again, we looking through this a little bit, like we kind of see that a lot through this. She's really trying to convince you that this whole idea of Aricia and St. Petersburg and all that stuff was really true. And we know now, like, there's no way. Like, there's the entry where Eris was like, no, we found the recording of this person in the city. Like, this can't be true. But it's like what you were saying. We've now kind of backed up out of like, Medusa was created by okay, so series of events here. Medusa is created by Coria. Somebody, we now know it's Savathun, starts feeding these letters. Medusa starts trying to break into these letters and let you know, hey, I'm real. I'm an AI and I am real. And I know I'm real, but I don't know how to get out of where I am. The AI then crashes. Coria kind of tries to create a backup plan to keep the Guardian enticed, and starts feeding us all sorts of information. Then turns around and says, JK, none of it was true. But then Medusa breaks through and was like, oh, no, it was true, or was it? And then starts to kind of like reset and de-evolve, like what you were saying. Like, it starts it's almost like the layers start. It's like Coria finally got control of Medusa and started like putting the layers back in place, but did so in such a cryptic format that would appease us, the Guardian, that now we're back to this Eris Morn layer. Like, because the interesting thing with this entry is we see none of that breakout, none of that, like, AAA 000, none of that is happening now. So I think you are right. I think the AI was created by Coria. I think the AI realized it was created and realized it wasn't real because it was seeing things that it couldn't have done or whatever, crashed. Then as it tried to reboot and escape Coria, Coria found it and recaptured it and took control of it in reverse order, and then started having it feed us little extra bits and be like, okay, now I'm, before I was just being subverted by this, like I was being forced to tell you this because of Coria. Again, to feed that misinformation to us, the Guardian, to keep us coming back for more, to keep the loop going. And then, again, throughout all this stuff, like, I invented Medusa as a way to pretend I'd never spoken to you. Then when I thought the Medusa lie was slipping, I invented all the rest of it. Like, just keep coming up with more and more stuff. Like, okay, let's feed on this layers upon layers upon layers that none of it's real. And then even ask, like, how do I prove to you? Will you believe me? I love that. I feel like this might be a dig at us, Myth. Will you scour these pages for proof or disproof? Will you upload these files to your networks, share them, call in the warlocks, aka Myth, and cryptarchs, aka me, to catalog and discuss everything I've said? Will this manuscript become the foundation of another teetering edifice of theory and anticipation? Yeah, sure as hell will. Good job.
Yeah. Got us pegged.
Yeah. Like, thanks. Job done. Check the box. Go home. We're set. Yeah, and then of course it goes through the rest of it, and then at the very end, like, it asks the question of what this is, and we've talked about this a bunch, and then it ends the whole thing with Ayat. It is because it could be no other way. So, and I think this Ayat is like the ending to the entire book, Truth to Power.
Yes, I think so.
I don't think it's just the ending to this entry. I think it is this entire book, Truth to Power, of being like, this book is this way because it could be no other way. Like, that's all there is to it. So, but again, I don't think that is Eris Morn saying it as much as Eris Morn uses it now as the Hive God of Vengeance, which I love me some Hive God of Vengeance. Let me tell you what. I think this is just Savathun just saying Ayat. Like, I have now sealed all of this with this Ayat word to like seal the misinformation, the keep feeding this, like, keep my worm going.
I think in a strange way, this entry is the one with the fewest layers of obscurity.
Yeah. This is the most truth. The most direct truth we've been handed.
And I think maybe the reason why we don't see any of those, like, uh, weird numbers or anything that we saw, even in the very first entry, in the Is It You, the very first entry, where they were still, the author is being, perceived to be Eris Morn. In this entry, we don't get any of that. The author is still being, supposedly Eris. But the title, It's Just Me. I think this entry is the only one that is literally penned by Savathun with no proxies.
I think you're right. I think you are right 100%.
And I think It's Just Me. It is her saying, like, this is me. This is the truest I personally am going to be with you, without anything in between. There's still this facsimile of it being Eris, but a lot of this stuff, yes, could apply to Eris, but also applies to Savathun. So, uh, we look at things like, I doomed to seek the final end of the hive among the cold stars. Savathun has been doing that. Not necessarily end in eradication, but end as in no longer subservient to the worms.
Yep.
I said farewell only to those who couldn't hear me. Kind of true. She left her family, her brother and sister, behind to pursue this. It was pitiful weakness that made me write to you. It was a wretched desire to be remembered as a person, not a ghoul, that made me tell you about the child Arisia, St. Petersburg, and the cold waters of Neva. Again, like, Savathun, I think, knows that she is perceived as a monster and knows that that's not 100% inaccurate, but she wants people to also know about Sathona
Sure.
and Fundament and what, you know, she had a childhood. She was a person, not just this boogeyman in the night. Um, and then the fear seized me that I was being a stupid child, that I was wasting your time with idiot sentiment, that you would feel contempt, or worse, feel nothing at all. I hid in the dark for years, Guardian. Again, we don't know how long she was off on her own doing whatever studies she was doing to try and resolve the worm issue. When she left Oryx and Shivu Arath in the Books of Sorrow, that was potentially billions of years before Soul ever was on the table, the Soul
Right.
system. I says it's not loneliness or death that frightens me, it is the opposite. She, on one hand, while she is the queen of deceit and misunderstanding, that also means no one will ever understand her. She'll never have a true friendship.
Oh, that's sad. Oh,
I
you're gonna make me
invented
cry,
Medusa.
Myth.
I invented Medusa as a way to pretend I had never spoken to you. And when I thought the Medusa lie was slipping, I invented all the rest. Now that bit, I think, is a little bit of both. Like, yes, she invented Medusa as a way to talk to us. I don't think I thought the Medusa lie was slipping, so I invented the rest. I think the rest was very intentional.
I, I
Uh,
I think it's intentional, and again, when she says I thought the Medusa lie was slipping, I think again I'm still we approached this book with the idea well, not originally, I guess, with new things to light, that Savathun has penned all of this, but I'm starting to think that there is some truth in here. That being that Medusa actually was invented by Quoria, and that
yeah,
Medusa
that's
actually
possible.
did gain sentience. And then Quoria was like, "Oh shit, now what?" And so then started to put contingencies in to try to get control of Medusa back.
Yeah, it the original, and I think that tracks. I think all of Truth to Power, although authored by Savathun, was delivered via the proxy of Quoria and Medusa. So, Savathun may have told Quoria, through obfuscation.
These are
It's a
hard
hard word.
words.
Um, through secretive means. There we go.
That works.
Deliver this information to the Guardian in whatever way you think will work best for my benefit.
Basically, like gave
And
Corey a blueprint and was just like, okay, now
yeah,
run with it.
yeah. And when that started to not work out the way that was intended, she stepped in and penned the final entry. And because of that, it's also the most personal entry. And I think has like they all have, is very, what's being told here is very true, beyond the veil of like it being Eris Morn. Um, and I mean, I think the last couple lines really cement it. I, you know, what a fool I've made of myself, all because I faltered in my conviction, tried to reach back to someone I know is lost to me, and panicked at the thought of touch. But so it is, and nothing I do can now make it otherwise. I think that's like her regret for
She
them
knows she's stuck with the
becoming
worm.
right,
She knows she
becoming the
can't go back
hive.
to she knows she can't go back to the Krill version of herself. She can't go back to Sarthona. Like she once they made the deal with the worms, that was a one-way path, and she's been trying to undo that for such a long time, and now realizes that there is no way to undo that without dying.
Yeah. And I mean, she pretty much states it. I am a woman full of secrets, a woman who has lost everyone she has ever called a friend. And when the need to share those secrets collided with the fear of friendship, I stumbled idiotically into needless lies.
That's
I
she's
mean,
just straight up saying, "I'm this is
that
Savathun."
just,
Like,
yeah, like that just is the situation she's in.
yep,
I And, was this all inevitable? Was this all, is it all come out this way because it had to? Like, by the hive's terms, yes, I ought.
yep. Like, see, again, I like that idea that like she asks the question to make it seem to the reader like, oh, okay, well, you're just answering your question, but she's actually it's a two-part thing. Yes, she's answering her own question that she just asked, but she is also sealing this book and
Yeah.
saying, this book is the way it is because it has to be the way it is, and therefore, d- like, it's funny by doing so, she's now basically told us the readers like, yeah, this is all true, like it can't not be true because IOT's here. Like, I love it. It's so funky. Well, where does that leave us then?
So that leads us, and I think we'll have time for this, though we may make this a slightly longer episode to do it.
Ooh,
Um, that leads us into not only our interpretation of truth to power, but the interpretation of truth to power in game by Ikora Ray and Rock Jalal of Dead Orbit, as well as I suppose the Hidden in general. Um, so this is all in a document called the Hidden Dossier, which you can find on Ishtar Collective, but came out originally with the Witch Queen Collector's Edition.
this is 2 years
And
after Truth to Power.
yes, yes. The Hidden Dossier is very, very long. It contains a lot more than just truth to power information, but we're only going to focus on the conversation between Jalal and Ikora. Uh, and they have a pretty lengthy kind of chat messages between them. Um, this is at the time of Witch Queen's launch, or just prior to. So Dead Orbit has left the city. They are, they've gone off to do their own thing in the wake of Season of the Splicer. But there's still communication there, at least between these two. Um, so just to get right into it, we have the very first message from Jalal to Ikora, and it says this. All right, I give up. We may have quit the tower, but I still need your help. For 3 years, we've had our best analysts working on the documents slipped to a guardian via the Queen's Court, the so-called Truth to Power manuscripts. All we've got to show for it are burnt fingers and bad arguments. I appeal to the hidden for help. Here's what I believe we can know with confidence. Number 1, the author of these documents is Savathun. Number 2, the documents are extensions of Savathun's strategy in the Dreaming City. They are cyclic, deceptive, and fond of the "you did exactly as I planned" mantra. Number 3, there is no encrypted content. Any solvable encryption scheme would be discovered by the mass scrutiny of ghosts. Therefore, encrypted information is little different from plain text. So there is no purpose to adding solvably encrypted info. Any unsolvable encryption scheme would remain unsolved and is thus equally purposeless. Therefore, the true message of these documents can be obtained simply by reading the text that is there. The true message concerns A, the importance of singularities in Savathun's personal cosmology, and or B, instructions on how to mantle Savathun. We have had ships sweeping the edge of the system for orbiting singularities, but we don't know the mass of the distributary or Exodus Green's outward vector at the time of the distributary's form. We don't even know if the distributary singularity inherited the Exodus Green's vector, leaving it on an escape trajectory into interstellar space, or if it emerged at the rest with respect to the sun, meaning it would fall directly towards the sun and pass through it over and over. Add the gravitational influence of the planets, and it could be anywhere by now. We're looking for a microscopic point in a volume larger than the solar system. We thought about using fleets of sensor mites to search for gravitational influence, but then we realized that the 9 are in competition with us to find the singularity, and they would certainly use their phantom mass to interfere. Unless it's been in front of us all along, right in the sky of the Dreaming City, could they have found some way to harness the singularity, to park it where they can guard it? If so, we must obtain this capability. Have you found anything else we missed? So I'm going to pause there. This is a lot.
I was going to say, holy shit. Like, thanks, Jaleel.
So there's a few things here. Yes, Sarak Jalal is like author of Savathun. They are under Dead Orbit is under the belief this is an extension of Savathun's strategy in the Dreaming City, whatever that is.
Presumably to find the key to the distributary.
He seems to be reading it as like she's trying to get into the distributary.
Yep.
I also assumes that there is no encrypted content, there are no secret codes, because either the mass scrutiny of ghosts, aka aka the Destiny community, would have found it by now if it existed, and if it was so good we didn't find it by now, then it's pointless to have it anyway.
What kind of shitty logic is this? Well, if there's enough people looking at it, they would have found it. But if it hasn't been found yet, then it doesn't need to be found and it's not important. You shit ass.
I mean, I guess the implication being that this was created to be readable, to be read. So what's the point of having unreadable info in it? I guess is what he's going for.
I don't know. I think he's just being shitty at this point.
He goes on to say that they believe that the true message concerns the importance of singularities and or instructions on how to mantle Savathun, meaning take the mantle of godhood from her. And he seems to attribute that to finding the distributary.
Yep.
And then goes about all the reasons why that's nearly impossible to do.
I do love his, that I like the idea of it falling. Well, I guess shit. Did he just find a really fancy way to describe orbit?
Yeah, pretty much.
I think I just realized that literally in this exact second, because he's like falling around into the sun and then over and over. He's fucking described orbit. Damn it.
And then references that like the 9 would have a vested interest in finding this place as well, and so they would be interfering with the guard,
mechanical way to find it,
right? Which is an interesting theory in and of itself. I suppose the whole the nine, their whole thing is like they want to be corporeal. They want to be they don't want to just be these entities that are tied to their planets. They want
Dark
to
matter.
be themselves that
Yeah.
have agency to go elsewhere. Um, so I
I still
guess,
that entry of them creating the body still fucks me up every time.
yeah. I guess to the nine, they would be interested in this place because it's a place, distributary is a place where the laws of that universe were decided at its creation by a by an entity from our universe. So if they could like figure out, okay, how did that space become, how did it become a thing? And then can we duplicate that, and then we can decide for ourselves what form we'll take, or something like that.
Yeah, basically that world came became corporeal through means of a person that existed in this reality. Therefore, why should that not? Why can't we harness that and do the same?
Yeah. Um, and then he's kind of like, unless the answer has been in front of us all along, and it's just in the Dreaming City skybox, which we talked about as well. I'm
Which I
not of
think is messed
belief
up
that
right
that
now.
is the
I think
case.
the giant like black hole
Yeah,
looking
it
thing is broken right now in Dreaming City.
it
So
uh it
so
disappears if you go into like certain zones.
so then does that mean that like Savathun's trick is working or Ikoria is breaking right now?
Maybe a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
um but yeah, is essentially saying like, Ikora, have we missed anything? Like, these are our observations. Have we missed anything? Uh, and Ikora responds with, the Truth to Power documents are Dulin Karu's plea for her mother's love. She wrote a biography of her mother, an attempt at understanding in the hopes that Savathun would also understand her. Imagine how lonely it would be to live in the High Coven, where everything, all communication, is deception. Imagine if your mother had never once told you the truth about anything. And Jalal responds, this is sarcasm. I am asking you in good faith for your help. Ikora, and I'm trying in good faith to lead you to the truth. The Truth to Power manuscripts are pluripotent. There are many ways to read them. Jalal sends another message saying, that sounds like an excuse for a failure to discover the true meaning. Ikora, you have it all backwards. You're trying to shuffle the puzzle pieces around until you get an image. You need to know the image before you can arrange the pieces. Think about logic. Here, we define logic as the governing principle by which a power defines its own existence. For example, the Hive practice sword logic. What is the governing logic of truth to power? Jalal responds, being nonsense, being convoluted, being misunderstood. Ikora, very well then. Study truth to power with an eye for how it means to be misunderstood. Jalal, who I'm assuming is getting annoyed at this point. Oh, ascended master, tell me, how are we to obtain actionable intelligence from the way the documents are meant to be understood? Ikora responds, your centuries of defeatism have left you with a bad case of learned helplessness. The documents are full of possible misunderstandings. One misunderstanding is that they are pointless, just complexity for the sake of confusion. The threads about Mbaru and power from confusion point this way. This is the stance that most amateur Guardian analysts seem to have settled on. It's all a lot of nothing, and there's nothing to understand in it. This is plain foolish. The text is full of useless intelligence, including an excellent explanation of Anthem Anatheme and an apparently accurate description of how Riven preyed on Guardians to create the curse. Another easy misunderstanding is that these pages are concerned with a real humdinger of a scheme. a manipulation of hive tribute that requires Savathun's entry into the distributary. This could be true. The scheme could very well exist, but if so, why would Savathun advise us of such a scheme? Another easy misunderstanding is that these are love letters. Think before you laugh. The letters carefully establish a sense of shared physicality. The heiress voice asks you to center yourself in your breath and your body. It asks you to imagine her as a judoka, a swimmer, a football player. This is subtle work. It is the work of an alien that has taken on many forms and learned how to win the trust in all of them. The letters plead with us for compassion. Not Eris describes herself as shy, pitiful, forlorn, afraid to share her true feelings for us. Not Medusa pleads for help as she disintegrates. At the center, we find the clearest profession of love. Thank you, sweet friend. You are a gift and a delight. You are more dear than my mother, for you have given birth to me 1,000 times. Superficially, this is a reference to the concept of Mbaru, Savathun's plan to predicate her existence upon the misunderstanding of others. We give birth to her by feeding her power. But she also says, here at the center, I lie to you the truth. You have everything you need to know it, but I will give you a clue, as the duelist gives warning before she draws. The answer you seek to the dreaming city is simple, not complex. So let's not misunderstand this statement about giving birth to her. Let's take it at face value. We have given birth to Savathun, and she genuinely loves us for it. I'm going to pause again there.
Dude, this is like I'm following. This is crazy. Like,
yeah, so we get
this
some
is
back and
mind
forth.
melting crazy. Like it. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm letting my brain implode a little. I need to
yeah.
put all the pieces back together. Give me a second.
So we get some back and forth between Ikora and Jalal that's mostly just like verbal sparring.
I love she just like calls him out like, okay, stupid.
Yeah. Let me explain this in words you'll understand.
Basic guardians even know this, and they just call it basic, and he's just like, fine, whatever, mom.
So there's a couple things that Ikora assumes that line up a little bit with what we had thought as well. The first being that one stance somebody might take is that the entire existence of this book is just to cause confusion. It's not worth reading into. It's a whole lot of nothing. We established at the very beginning of the series, we are not of that mindset. We do think there is a lot of very useful truths in this book. Ikora seems to agree. This is plainly foolish. The text is full of useful intelligence, including an excellent explanation of anthem and a theme, and a apparently accurate description how Riven preyed on the Guardians to create the curse. We talked about that as well. All of that seems 100% accurate. She goes on, another easy misunderstanding is that these pages are concerned with a manipulation of hive tribute that requires Savathun's entry into the distributary. And we had talked about this. We don't think she needs access to the distributary per se, the distributary as we know it, but that may be a little closer to the truth. That may be kind of glancing off the real truth.
Yeah.
Ikora does say, like, maybe this is truly a scheme, but if so, why tell us?
Sure.
And
I guess that's the big question, right? Like, why would she
yeah,
give us every single plot point of her or of her own personal scheme? Just like hand it to us on a silver platter.
and I think on one hand, maybe she didn't. Maybe those are just truly lies to confuse. On the other hand, you know, what we talked about, she gets power at this point in time from Mbaru, from the misinterpretation, the misunderstanding of Savathun. What better way for people to misunderstand you than give them a very confusing document that you did lay all of your plans out in, that they are going to discuss across the thousands of guardians on the internet?
Oh my God.
And those thousands of guardians are going to have thousands of different theories, and
Each
99.9%
misunderstanding.
of them are going to be
Oh my
wrong.
God. And then each one just feeds her. Oh my God, dude, this
Right.
is brilliant. Like again, the truth from the mouth of a liar is you can't even you can't. How do you even how?
Exactly.
Savathun might be the greatest entity in all of Destiny. I'm just
She's up
good.
there for
She's
sure.
good.
I'm just putting it out there. What we've seen of the Witness and what we've seen of Savathun, like I'm in the Savathun camp as number one villain.
That's what
Just
I'm
saying.
saying.
But and Ikora continues. These letters plead with us for compassion. Kind of what we were talking about. There seems to be some vulnerability there. Ikora is saying this may just be because Savathun is a very cunning person and knows how to get people to feel bad for her or trust her or whatever. Um, which, yeah, if that's the case, mission accomplished to a degree.
Yep.
Uh, um, and then she says, Savathun, and she quotes a line: "Here at the center, I lie to you the truth. You have everything you need to know it, but I will give you a clue. The answer to seek the dreaming city is simple, not complex." I And so Ikora says, like, kind of what we alluded to originally. What if we just take some of this info at face value?
Yeah.
What if we truly gave birth to Savathun as she is now? What if we put her in her position of power as we know it now, and she genuinely has appreciation and, loves us for putting her in that position? And that may be true. This may have been, we don't know how weak Savathun was. We know she was trying to subvert her worm, seemingly unsuccessfully. This Truth to Power book may have been a huge boon, may have kept her alive for years where she would have otherwise succumbed to the worm.
Sure.
Like,
Anything to
it's
buy her time, right?
possible. Yeah, it's possible that us discussing this and the myriads of misunderstandings around it are what let her survive to Witch Queen.
God, that's I mean
Uh,
that's 2 years worth of
yeah.
shit.
So, Jalal responds, "Are you implying that we created Savathun by imagining her? That her presence in the books of sorrow and all the things she's done throughout more than 1 billion years were caused by us reading the Truth to Power manuscript? If this is what a light does to a mind, I'm glad I was never chosen." Ikora responds, "No, I don't think that's the right answer. Her spawning on Fundament was only one of her births. She says it herself. You gave birth to me 1,000 times. Look at Truth to Power simply. What are the topics it centers upon? Black holes, Vex simulations, Ahamkara, manipulation of Hive tribute. So our answer must involve all of these. Ahamkara willingly seek destruction in order to be taken as trinkets by guardians. You must know this. You've tried to exploit those trinkets as thoroughly as every other faction. But do you understand the metaphysics behind their desire? I do. I once wished to know more about the Ahamkara. That wish was granted. Ahamkara believe that by transforming themselves, by metamorphosizing from monsters into treasures, they become more real, more important ontologically. It is a gap between reality as is and reality as desired that they feed on, Iraq. and guardians are the richest, finest source of reality as desired that they have ever met. What have Ahamkara artifacts ever done but instill delusions of grandeur? A solipsistic madness. I am more real than what surrounds me. Why is this? The skulls of dire Ahamkara speak to me. They know I want to know the truth, and so they whisper to me of a path they climb. They call it the anathematic arc. They're going somewhere. Somewhere they consider more real. Guardians are part of how they get there. What if Savathun wants to go there too? I'm going to pause again on that.
Dude, okay. They know they're in a video game and they want
Yeah,
out.
yep.
Savathun has actually gotten out once.
Yeah, so we talked about in our Ahamkara episode, we talked about like Ahamkara have this understanding that there is a quote unquote realer world outside of the Destiny universe. Now, I think it's up for debate a little bit whether that realer world is like the Garden of Creation as referenced in the
The
gardener
unveiling
and
stuff.
the unveiling stuff, the gardener and the winnower, though you know maybe in a slightly different sphere than we originally thought.
Sure.
But are they trying to escape to that creation area, or are they trying to escape to us, to the fourth wall breaking reality?
I love it. I love
Uh,
that idea. Like that's I I know I know this is all just written. I know it's a video game, but what if? What if the creatures of the video game have actually realized that they're in a video game and they're like, this is horseshit, man. Like I'm a bad guy
yeah,
in a video game. I'm just a wish granting dragon in a video game. To hell with this. I'm getting the hell out of here.
yeah. So it's an interesting idea that Ahamkara know that like there's another level, there's another realer universe. Um, and Ikora is saying, well, one of the main subjects that Truth to Power talks about is Ahamkara. Perhaps Savathun has similar ambitions to Ahamkara. To which Jalal responds, are you implying that we... No, I need to move my line is what I need to do. Jalal responds instead saying this. If you say there's something more real than here, you're implying that we are not real. This is the simulation argument, that we are ghosts in some other world's machine. Then there are no real stakes in our war for survival, because even if we are extinguished, we were never more than phantoms. I refuse to accept this. And Ikora responds to that, saying, oh, don't be so timid. In a rock of dead orbit, driven to despair by the thought of our universes, when you should know the lore of Hubble volumes and Tegmark heresies by heart. Our existence is real to us, vitally real, because it is ours. It is the only one we have. Even if we are simulations or imaginations, we have an inner life as rich as any real living thing, and so we are equally real. When we die, we are dead. Dead. We believe there are many timelines. Does that lead us to discount the reality of our own? Do we stop caring about ourselves, Ikora Ray and Arak Jalal, because in another timeline we're already dead? Do I punish you because in another timeline you murdered me? What matters to us is us. But it is possible for realities to be concentrated. The awoken distributary is an infinite universe, but it exists within our own universe. The Truth to Power documents constantly return to the question of black hole singularities, to their value as computers and secret keepers. We are told our true purpose as guardians is to hurl all we value into a black hole. We are told that Savathun wants to enter the distributary and slaughter those within to gain power. The Pathria Good black hole cosmogenesis principle of Golden Age physics confirms that the interior of a black hole is a new universe. All black holes produce their own interior cosmos. All cosmos, including our own, are probably the interior of a black hole in a parent universe. The Truth to Power documents want it understood that Savathun wishes to enter the distributary in order to gain power in our parent universe. The suggestion here is that it is possible for actions in a concentrated universe to grant power in the parent universe. I'm going to pause again.
I mean, that is the real possibility, right? Like, if gaining power in sub universe A grants you power in parent universe A, duh, why not? Like, let's go.
Yeah. It's an interesting thought that, like, if we extrapolate that even to, us, to our universe as we know it as human beings, yeah, like, our entirety could just be an existence within a singularity in another universe that sits, quote unquote, above us, is one level up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there could be an infinite number of universes that are a level below us within the many black holes that exist throughout our universe. And the idea being that the Destiny universe is one of those, just in a digital space,
I
kind of
mean,
thing.
it's I was about to say, digital space is an infinite black hole. Yes, kids, welcome to the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just fucked you up too, didn't it?
um, but yeah. So the Ikora is just kind of pitching this idea and getting this idea of, like, universes within universes. And so Jalal responds to this. What does this have to do with love letters to the human form? With confusion for the sake of confusion, you are making no sense. Ikora responds, Savathun pretends to have a soft human body. She apologizes and empathizes. She asks for pity. She regrets emotional vulnerability. She's even funny at times. She makes a game for us to play. These are attempts to enter the mind of a human reader. Wherever she wants to go, it is a place with human minds. She needs to enter those minds to reach her destination. Jalal, are you actually suggesting we are concatenated within the mind of a reader? Ikora, wouldn't that be something? No, the answer here is simple, not complex. Certainly not a twist from early postmodern writing. We surmise that what Savathun wants in the Dreaming City must have something to do with the Ahamkara, the Vex simulations, black holes, her daughter, Dolankaru, and the manipulations of Hive Tribute. So how can we relate these? At first, we believed Savathun wanted to use Ahamkara wishes to protect her daughter Dolankaru, while Dolankaru tried to find a way for Savathun to enter the distributary black hole in order to manipulate Hive Tribute. What if this is a misunderstanding? What would the Dreaming City tell Savathun? Why would the Dreaming City tell Savathun how to enter the distributary? The Awoken have never tried to return to their birthplace. They believe their exodus was irreversible. But what have the Awoken done instead? They passed from the distributary and into our world. That knowledge is in the Dreaming City, in the records of the Awoken hulls that carried Mara's people on their exodus. What Savathun wants in the Dreaming City is exactly that. not the way into a child universe, but a way out into a parent. A parent where there are human minds waiting to receive her, formless as Mbaru, as the mist. Pause again.
Dude, okay, thank you for pausing because I was about to lose my mind here. Is what if Savathun gets so following that logic of the maybe she isn't looking like, and we thought this too, like maybe she isn't looking for the distributary, maybe she's just looking for a way to get to another universe. If she can find the original hull of the original ships that escaped the distributary and bring them to the enclave and make those devices remember,
Yeah?
then she's got it. Like that's it. That's the like all of this has been schemes upon schemes upon schemes. The whole reason she that's the whole reason why we even use the enclave in the first place, why it's even discovered, is because Savathun wanted us to discover it. She wanted to give us a piece of this glaive and show it memory and shape it, because by showing itself its memory, like we've shown that we can, that everything has a memory. Like even this microphone I'm speaking into has a memory, and if I can make it remember bits of itself, it's inorganic, but that information is still encoded onto it. Like, oh my god, myth, my brain I think just imploded.
So,
But to get to again, that information
yeah,
is how to escape, not
right.
and they state it here specifically, that information is not to get to a child universe, but to escape into a greater universe, into a parent universe. So this is still a one-way trip, again under the guise that the awoken, I say guys, the understanding that the awoken even don't have a way back, that this is always a one-way trip to go from child universe to parent universe. You cannot go the opposite direction.
Yeah. So, uh, it's also very easy to take this as like she's trying to escape into a parent universe of human minds. It's very easy to be like she's trying to break into ours.
Yeah,
She's trying to escape the game and become real, quote unquote.
I'd
I
welcome a Savathun.
and so and via the methods of the Dreaming City, did the methods that the Awoken use that are still stored in the Dreaming City, um, to accomplish that. So Jalal responds, "How is anyone supposed to arrive at this by studying the Truth to Power text?" And Ikora responds to him, "Very easily. It is why I believe I'm right. This is the analogy our guardian analysts failed to grasp. Look at the structure of the text. At first, Eris is real. Then we learn Eris's voice is a deception by Medusa. Then we learn Medusa is nested inside Quoria. Then we learn that Quoria is a fiction of Dolan Karu. And at the center, Savathun reveals herself to be the parent of it all. We are headed inward, as if moving from parent to child. And then we perceive in reverse. Savathun is revealed to be a fiction of Dolan Karu a simulation by Quoria, and so on. And so in the end, Truth to Power moves outward, just as Savathun plans to move. In from our universe and out to the distributary, or out from our universe to its parent. Jalal responds, "Oh, I see. A literary structure like that is called a Bungie. Siasmus? Siasmus. Uh, Meaning crossing point. Look, like a wormhole or a portal. It was hidden in plain sight. But then we must act urgently to stop this. Savathun cannot be allowed to depart our universe into some reality superordinate to ours. But now you'll tell me, what if she does? What can we what can she do to us out there? Ikora responds, it's all besides the point anyway. She may have already accomplished what she wanted. Some damn fool guardian carried out her instructions on a dare. I don't know why she wanted a powerful guardian to destroy her daughter in the ruins of Mara's throne, but she did want it to happen, and I'm guessing the effects weren't felt here. I think she got a glimpse into a world above our own. Maybe even a kind of influence. Of course, Savathun is still with us. She walked among us as Osiris. She tricked us into removing her worm. She hasn't vanished into some higher reality. I do not think she built a wormhole into another universe and walked through it, although her intrigues with the Nine have focused on creating singularities from dark matter. She keeps a lot of irons in the fire, this Witch Queen. I think rather, she sent instructions on how to mantle her. I think the whole Truth to Power manuscript is in Ova, a manual on how to behave like her, how to describe her through action and thought so completely that you will become her and thus give birth to her. It is done in the books of sorrow, to recall her from true death. It might be done again. So a part of her is out of the jar, slithering into that other world. Let's hope no one has given birth to her there yet. So I'm going to pause on that.
I love that it's canon that the one dude beat. Like,
Yeah.
Ikora acknowledges that somebody has done this, has got to power level 999 and solo beat Dueling Karu, and the people in the universe are acknowledging it.
Yep. So,
creating like a two-way street here, almost like proving that there is a parent guardian type thing, or a parent universe
touching on that. Things happened when that guardian got to 999 and beat Dolankaru in our world. So the first was a blog post from Destiny, from Bungie, titled On the Power Climb. And that blog post said this: to our friend Bagel4K, who is the guardian that accomplished this. This is another gift. You have spent countless hours defeating the enemies of the last city, steadily increasing your power to challenge the darkness that is consuming the dreaming city. Your strength is my strength, and we have been watching. Alongside the community, as you've come to the doorstep of being the first guardian in Destiny history to have a 4-digit power level. Your victory is my victory. We are humbled by your dedication, and while this may not have broken the curse, we can say without question that you have become legend. My jaws are wide, and I am waiting. Thank you for playing, and we can't wait to see how high you climb each season. The wait is long, but I am ceaseless. And then in like garbled text at the bottom, it says, I am Savathun ravenous. I have set the snare and baited the trap.
It's so good. I love it.
Immediately following this, DMG, who was at that time a community manager for Bungie, had his Twitter, quote unquote, taken over, and he posted 2 messages, again in kind of that like garbled overlay text, that if you look through the random symbols, they say truth to power, or excuse me, there were a number of them. They say, I am the finality, the reward. I am the true ending. The wait is long, but I am ceaseless. And then DMG's posts were, truth to power is victory so easy, hero. And then, came back and was like, hey, everything's fine. I don't really recall writing the last few tweets, but they're there. That's weird. and continued on like if nothing had happened after that.
Weird.
So the implications being here that guardian doing what Savathun wanted done somehow allowed her to interface with our world for a little bit.
At least creating some type of connection there.
Yeah.
Almost like testing a theory and proving it. Like, hey, here's an idea. Get to 999 and solo duel Ikora, and somebody's like, okay. Again, Savathun manipulating the path. Like,
yep.
she knows somebody's gonna do it. Sure enough, somebody does it, and she goes, okay, how can I use this? Oh, I can use this to bridge the gap between this universe and the parent universe. Cool. Let's give that a try. And then does so. Like,
Yeah.
so the effects of what Bagel 4K did weren't felt in the world of Destiny, but were felt in our world, which is exactly what Ikora is alluding to here. Of like, what if the what if that exact thing is the case here? Like, what if something has been done and something has been felt, just not in our universe? In which case,
right.
What does it matter to us? Like, do we even care? Like, does it do anything here? Does it affect us in any way? No. Cool. Keep going.
Yeah.
It's almost like, well, it didn't happen to me, so it's somebody else's problem type thing. Which is kind of shitty, Ikora. Thanks. But you
but
know,
I mean, on the same token, like, if someone came to you as like, hey, someone did something real bad in a different universe, be like,
thanks.
Okay, like,
good job.
What do you want me to do?
You're arrested. Take that.
But yeah, so the final message is from Jalal back to Ikora after she says like maybe she's already broken free in some way, and he comes back and says, well, maybe you're the one who has it all backwards. The light is non-computable. It can't be simulated in conventional physics. That proves that any universe with the light cannot be a simulation. Our universe can contain simulations, but it cannot be one itself. Maybe this other world Savathun's touched is subordinate to ours after all. Maybe they are the ones who exist in our minds. A dream of a purely material world, adrift in the true cosmos of light and dark. Poor frail dreams, the things she would do to them. And that's the end of the transmission.
Well, shit. Myth, are we real?
Time for everyone to have an existential crisis.
Shit! I don't know what to do with this information, Myth. I do like that logic, though. Like, paracausality exists here, and we know that paracausality can't be simulated, so we must be the real world, and anything else is a dream. But your logic is pretty goddamn sound, but shit. That means I'm not real.
But we came up with the concept of light, so like...
Are we our own paradox?
Yes.
Fuck.
Yes,
Damn it. Oh my god, dude. This is why I love Savathun. I love the truth to power stuff. It's so thought provoking of like again, taking it all as a lore entry is one way, but then like to like really dive into it and really think, well, what if? You know, like this is Savathun, greatest villain of all time, full stop.
Pretty much. Yeah, I'm right there with you. But that is gonna wrap things up for this episode. We're gonna stop there. We have completed the Truth to Power and the Hidden Dossier kind of discussion around Truth to Power. We have some more entries that we're gonna go over at least the next episode or two that are still Savathun related.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a fun book to dissect.
Absolutely loved it. Well, let's do some shout outs then.
Yeah, absolutely. So, our first shout out for this episode comes to us from Apple Podcasts. Comes to us from a JDHDSBD.
That's just rude. I get it. Like
Just
you just garbled. Like that's fine. But
it's fine.
God dang it.
But they
I'm
were
gonna try
kind
to
enough
figure out
to.
if it's an anagram or a what are they called?
I leave that all to you.
I can't think what is what's where like radar is an actual thing. It's like radio advanced something 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 or sonar is
Uh,
what are those called? Not anagrams.
no, now you're making me space on it.
Boy, we're real smart warlocks, aren't we?
Yeah.
Acronyms. There it is.
There's the word.
The voice from the nether answers. Acronyms. Maybe JSDSBSH. Fuck, I'm so sorry.
Well, despite the pronounceability of their username, they were very kind in leaving us a 5-star review on Apple. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, thank you.
But they say, amazing show. I've been playing Destiny since D1, and I never really got much into the lore. But I decided I wanted to learn more about the Destiny universe, and I came about this show, and I've learned a lot.
Good.
Well, that's awesome. I mean that's the whole point. That's why we started. So
knowledge is power.
I'm glad that
Unless
you
you're Savathun,
you
then
learned some
trickery is
stuff.
power.
Well, both for her.
Ah, ha ha, ha ha.
Uh,
Well, one for Oryx, one for Savathun.
Yes.
Are we just mini Oryxes? Is that what we are? No, we're spreading knowledge. We're not gaining knowledge. Well, I guess we might be gaining knowledge. I don't know.
A little bit of both?
Yeah.
Little column A, little column B?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I like it.
I mean, if someone wants to give me the crown of Taken King, as long as it doesn't come with like any worm things, I'm all right with it.
I don't know, man. That's a lot of power. I'm not. I was given that much power in Final Fantasy TCG card form in a deck that I made, and I am telling you right now, I am not responsible enough to use that much power.
But no, so thank you very, very much for the kind review. Our second shout out of the evening is a little bit of a long one, and it's a 2-parter. This came to us through our email. This one says, in response to the homework that we assigned regarding who the heck is the Admiral that is being referenced in Truth to Power.
I just love that somebody took our homework assignment to heart.
I know, it's great.
I've given out homework before, and it's just been returned with nothing. And this is validating, and I like it.
It is. So this very enterprising individual says, unfortunately, I can't answer who the author is referring to, but I'm fairly positive that it cannot be the Chroma Admiral. Both Oryx, Books of Sorrow, Leviathan Rises, I believe is the chapter in Books of Sorrow, and Shivu Arath, Veiled Tithe Gloves refer to the Admiral as a male, while the Truth to Power, the encrypted verse author, refers to the mysterious Admiral in the feminine. I did a little research on the word Admiral itself and found some interesting notes. Etymologists have varying theories, but most seem to agree that it comes from some form of the phrase Amir al, with different endings and suffixes. This loosely translates to commander or lord of. This already gives a more regal feeling to the word, but I also noticed the root of Amir is the word command, or Amara. Maybe referencing Mara, Sov. Then there's the mention of the Admiral's shining eyes, a trait I associate with the Awoken. I absolutely agree with that. A couple of other small things, like the mention of knowing the people well and being interested in their name, or the comment about being able to see the author in the stone laid at your plotting table, reminds me of the stone and crystal styling throughout the Dreaming City. TLDR, there's a very long-winded way to suggest that maybe the author was actually speaking to the Awoken, not specifically anyone in particular, which means the fallen admiral mentioned was maybe Shir Ido, shot in the dark. Sorry for the paragraphs, but this is what you get for giving a warlock homework on lore. Thank you so much for all your hard work on the show. It is a highlight of the week. Signed, Sartrine Penguin.
Oh. Also, yeah. Shit. As I have discovered through no means of my own, I am actually a Titan. I like shotguns and swords and punching, apparently. So yeah, as much as I am a warlock, I'm just a titan with a rift.
Well, that's all right.
I do also like eating grenades.
So I think there's a lot of points that make sense here. Yes, I don't think there's anything that tells us like this is the admiral.
Right.
Um,
Even the search that Myth and I have done, like we couldn't
yeah.
find anything.
But I 100% agree. Likely not the Chroma Admiral. I didn't even pick up on the difference in gender identification, but yeah,
Nope.
that really seals it that that's very much not the Admiral being referred to. Very interesting about the Admiral, kind of the breakdown of the word itself,
Yeah.
and especially the Amir coming from Amara. That seems pretty.
The obsession with names, like the eyes,
Yeah.
the whole name thing in the distributary, like that's how they define themselves. They took the name and folded it in on itself and created Mara, all that stuff. Like
Hmm.
it does seem very awoken driven. Which is again very interesting that entry was if it is, then it is directed at the awoken.
Yeah, and I agree. Shining eyes, the stone table, like all of that seems very awoken.
Yep.
I say, and this particular poster also followed up with a another email, um, and as an update, and posed the question: what if the admiral in question is Aldrin? He was the leader of the Crows, though I think they're more scouts than a formal military, but they did have ships, so a navy?
Spaces look like it as a sea, like
Yeah,
especially in science fiction stuff. Like you look at Star Trek and it's like space is the final frontier as like a voyage across the sea.
yeah, no, absolutely. They continue, but also he was inaugurably of the Awoken hierarchy. He was the prince. The dying helm reference could be about Mara dying in space to Oryx's dreadnought, which Aldrin was also there for his and his corruption already underway. The shining eyes were definitely a point of focus during his corruption, and we know Savathun and Riven were behind that, like the city's curse. We talked about that in our Aldrin series. He kept like having he always felt like he had something in his eye.
Yep.
Um, I also just wanted to mention how much I like your theories about what the distributary might really be and about Savathun being somehow in the human history. We did get the lore card about the Rigby family meeting the devil. That's it, I promise. Cheers. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so much info, so much that just thank you for going the extra 110% on this because there's a lot of awesome stuff here. Um, Yeah, it's Aldrin's an interesting one too. I don't know that he's ever been referred to as an admiral either, but I get the kind of the mentality of like, well, he commanded ships, maybe. Um, and definitely his eye was referenced all over the place. The dying helm referencing Mara, dying in space makes sense. So I think there's a lot of connections that could be made there, and these are really good ones for sure.
Absolutely.
Um, and in relation to the lore card reference there at the end, we did get that lore card about the Rigby family meeting the devil. That is in relation to a ghost shell. I believe it's the Fundament ghost shell that came out in the Witch Queen.
I think that's the one with
Th-
the pillars that are like circling it.
yep,
Yep.
yep, that's the one. Uh, and not going to read the whole card, but it is essentially a human family, the Rigbys, that are present during like the collapse happening, and they make a deal with the devil, and the devil is described as feminine and having a sweet, deceitful voice, a la Savathun.
Yeah.
So, just another fun little tie-in
Well, and
there.
we knew she was there during the collapse. Like she literally
Absolutely,
prevented it, so that is not far fetched.
not at all,
Though again, at that
not at
point in
all.
time, like humanity had never seen a hive, so Like,
Right.
sure, why would that not be like, oh God, it's the devil? Like, sure, why not?
Yeah, I mean, that'd probably be the closest like thing in their mind to
Yeah.
like that looks like what I would think a demonic being would look like.
Yep.
So, but no, so thank you again to
Also, good job on your homework. A+.
Penguin. Yeah, absolutely. Stamp of approval. You pass.
I like it.
But so if you liked what you heard this evening and you want to support us in some way, best way to do so is just leave a review on your platform of choice, however many stars you think. If your platform has the option for text reviews, we love reading those. Otherwise, you can reach out to us at Myths and Stories, Z instead of an S, on Stories on Twitter, or the same Myths and Stories at gmail.com, and you may see yourself as a future shout out.
Yeah. I guess I have a thank you I have to give out. Didn't I invent 3 characters this episode? Jill, Scott, and someone else?
Yeah, very briefly.
God, isn't that bad? I invent my own characters and I don't remember why I invented them. Oh well. Thank you, nameless characters that I invented for some reason in this episode and then thusly forgot. You were not important.
And then Squirrel.
Yep. You were not important enough to be remembered, such as Bob the Hobgoblin. Also, thank you, Bob the Hobgoblin. Because I haven't thanked you in a while.
You can't beat Bob.
That's true. Or Jake the... Oh, why wasn't one of the Ahamkara named Puff?
that is a lost opportunity.
Literally writes itself, Myth. Puff, the magic Ahamkara, lives by the sea. Okay, I won't torture you all with saying. Anything else, Myth?
I think that's it.
Alrighty. Well, then from all of us singing lore daddies to all of you guardians out there, we'll see you next time.
You found your people. Guardians do love their myths and stories.